I'll call on Patricia Kemuksigak. I'm sorry if I said your name differently on two different occasions. If you'll forgive me for that.
Hello. I'm going to speak today as the ordinary member for Upper Lake Melville for Nunatsiavut government. I'm also the Minister of Health and Social Development, but I'm speaking today as ordinary member for. Myself and Keith Russell represent Mud Lake, Northwest River, and Goose Bay, 2,300 beneficiaries. Meetings were held in February and March with the Nunatsiavut elected officials from Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and Northwest Mud Lake with our constituents regarding the Lower Churchill, and this is what came about from our meetings. There are over 2,300 Nunatsiavut beneficiaries living in the three communities, and these are some comments and themes that we received. The Nunatsiavut beneficiaries strongly state that Nalcor and the province have to take action in regard to the Lower Churchill environmental assessment to make it broader, to cover Lake Melville and the Riglet area where there will be downstream effects. There will be. People strongly stated that they were not consulted on what Ron Bowles from the Labrador and Aboriginal Affairs presented on to the panel from the department. He stated that all the communities were consulted and everyone thought the Lower Churchill project was a good thing. No one at any of our community meetings from Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Mud Lake, or Northwest River were ever consulted. No one. There will be no benefits to Labrador with this project, just negative consequences and the death of our mighty Grand River. There's a small number of people in Labrador, but we are very important, and our land and environment is very important to us, and it has been since time immemorial. Nunatsiavut beneficiaries were concerned about getting jobs with the project. Jobs will be with contractors and not necessarily Nalcor or the Newfoundland Labrador government. Contractors don't have to hire with diversity or gender equity or adjacency policies and principles. The contractors will hire their own people that they've always had. That will leave us with little to no jobs. People are also concerned that to get a job they might have to be a part of a trade union. And if so, not many Labrador Inuit would get any jobs because they're not part of trade unions. Even if people get into the union, they will be on the bottom of the list and they hire from the top. The jobs will be short-term, 5 to 6 years, another boom and bust. Even if there was compensation for losses from the Lower Churchill, it will never be enough money. It is the death of the Grand River. Increased demands on already stretched health care in our area was another major concern. It is a 6 to 8 week wait for mental health and addiction services already, and long waits for doctor's appointments and long emergency room waits. With an influx of people and a project of this size near us, it would greatly add to the wait periods. People were very afraid of the dam breaking, and we are so very close to the dam. The dam is in our backyard. There is no evacuation plan for the town and no evacuation exit out of town. It has been stated that there will only be 20 to 30 minutes to get out of town, and that is not enough time. Mud Lake will be the most affected by the damming of the river, and the community will be changed forever. River crossings will be later in the fall and earlier in the spring due to the change in the ice conditions, and the temperature of the water will be heated due to hydroelectric generation. There will be less water in the river, and it will become very difficult to get to Mud Lake during the summer and spring, fall seasons. There were trappers from Mud Lake who trapped the Upper Churchill, and then when it flooded, they lost their trap lines. And they have seen the devastation and change in the waterways once it became dammed. They do not want the damming of Muskrat Falls to go ahead. Northwest River residents have been trappers for many generations, and many of the beneficiaries trapped the Churchill River. The river and Lake Melville are very important to them, and when Upper Churchill was dammed, they lost their livelihood and saw major changes in Lake Melville and the rivers that feed from the Churchill River. Example, species were no longer there, saltwater intrusion, rivers almost drying up, etc. Homelessness and housing is a major concern for the Inuit living in Happy Valley Goose Bay. If there's a large influx of people, it will only get worse. And if the Inuit don't get the jobs as other people do, it will widen the gap between the have and the have-not in our community. There have been no studies in the seal population in Lake Melville, only a 3-day aerial survey. That is not a study. Increased mercury in our fish, seals, mammals, and other things we eat in our traditional diet. There will be, People will be reluctant to eat our traditional foods because of fear of mercury poisoning. We will become dependent more on store-bought foods, which will further increase our diabetes rates. Alcohol and drug use and abuse will further increase. Sexually transmitted disease and unplanned pregnancies will also increase with a large influx of workers for the dam. There will be increases in family breakups and family violence. There are not enough childcare spaces today. So if they're hoping to put more women to work, there is no childcare space. And this is what some people had said. If the river is dammed, certain conditions must apply. Commemorative items such as monuments and items identifying the trappers who trapped along the Churchill River must be in place. Places should be marked and items should be preserved. This is an important part of Labrador's history and culture. Compensation should be available for the people whose trap lines were flooded in the Upper Churchill. Electricity for northern and southern Labrador to rid them of the diesel generation and for future industrial development. If one of our rivers is dammed, then all of Labrador should benefit. Or alternative measures should be in place, such as wind. Mitigation measures, studies, and monitoring for downstream effects in Lake Melville and the Riglet area must be in place. Social programs put in place to minimize social problems that will come about from such a large influx of people, such as social housing, increased counseling services, fund social programs in the community, such as Labrador Friendship Center, the Women's Center, the Status of Women, the Nazi Government Health and Social Development, daycare programming, and elder care programming. Compensation for downstream effects, as there will be major downstream effects. Effective monitoring and mitigation measures for fish, seals, mammals, berries in Lake Melville and the Riglet area. LATP funds should not be used to subsidize Nalcor's work. Insured jobs will go to Labradorians. Like was stated this morning by somebody, maybe the Innu, Aboriginal people, and then Labrador residents. But also, I want to state that some people did not want the dam to go ahead at any cost or any concession. just want to end this on a personal comment. I was told by a non-beneficiary that we have to go with progress. The damming the river is progress. And I said, it is 1960s progress. But we should not have progress at any cost. I know the river personally and Lake Melville and have fished there and hunted there. We as a family have fished up the Churchill River and camped there on many occasions. It's a beautiful place, the most beautiful place I've ever seen. Our family have hunted and fished in many areas of Lake Melville, and my extended family have fished and hunted since we moved to Happy Valley Goose Bay from Hopedale, since they moved from Happy Valley Goose Bay from Hopedale in the early 1950s. We've always hunted and fished in Lake Melville. Seals were caught in Lake Melville for food for our large family. We had a large extended family, and for food for our husky dogs, and the skins were for sale. That was our major income for our family. Seals have been very important to us and still is important to us today and in the future. I do not want to have to tell my grandchild and possibly great-grandchildren that we once caught fish and we once caught seals at Adams Point, Doublemere, Kenemish, Mulligan Point, and I can go on. We want to fish in these and hunt in those areas into the future. This is very important to our traditions, and we don't want our traditions to be gone. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and a very detailed presentation in many respects. I was going to ask you, with respect to the consultation meetings you had in February, as I understood it, were they like broad? Did you have a lot of meetings? Were they broad ranging? Were there a lot of people who attended? I just wanted to get some sort of feel for that.
One was in February and two was in March. There was a lot of people in the February meeting in Northwest River. There wasn't a really large amount of people in the Goose Bay meeting, and there was a lot in Mud Lake. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And it was on Lower Churchill. We just wanted to get people's input, and it was also on updates on our work as ordinary members.
Okay, so it was specifically on the project and getting input from your people on that. That's why
it wasn't specifically, but that was the main purpose of the meeting. But it was also on giving updates on assembly work with the three elected officials.
Thank you very, very much. Any questions from the proponent? Do you have a question? No questions? Thank you very much for your presentation. Is there a question? It's okay. Okay, sir. Maybe you'd come over to the phone. Yeah. Shalal again. Yes.
Can you hear me? Yes. Kirlaw, Happy Valley Labrador. Patricia Kemuksigak. Did you state that our provincial representative, Labrador Aboriginal Affairs and Deputy Minister, stated that they had consultations, but they weren't really? Nobody was consulted?
It was my understanding that he presented at the panel several weeks back, and he said that they consulted with all 32 communities in Labrador, and all the communities were in favor of the Lower Churchill project. However, all the people who came out to our meetings, no one was ever consulted or spoken to or asked about it.
So it just goes to show it was a blatant lie, and that it can show that these people cannot be trusted.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, thank you very much for your presentation.